let's have a look at how you can clone your voice using AI. Now, if I'm going to clone my voice, I'll first of all have to create a sample of my voice. So let's go into QuickTime Player. I'm going to create a very short audio sample, just about 5 or 6 seconds should be enough. So here we go. This is an audio sample that I'm creating so that I can clone my own voice. Okay, so I'm going to take that file and I'm going to save it, and I've saved it as an M4A file. I could have actually used pretty much any audio format, but I'm saving it as an M4A file, and I'm putting it in the same directory as a kind of a big pile of code that I've created. Actually, I said big pile of code, it's not that much code. I'm going to be using a model called Qwen TTS, actually Qwen 3-TTS. And because the way this works, because it's a little bit rudimentary, it doesn't really integrate very well with things like Ollama and things at the moment. So you do have to go and write a little bit of Python code, and I'll make them available afterwards. But this is a short program, and what it should do is generate a voice file that says this is a test of voice cloning on Mac with Apple Silicon. Okay, now I do require my little audio file, and I also need to tell the library what I'm saying in that audio file. And the reason for that is it needs to understand which bits of the sound are the actual words that I'm saying. So now that I've created the file and I've created a little script, I can go and run this Python script. Now it's going to take it a moment to do this. And so while that's going on, let me just very quickly explain what's happening. So you can get lots and lots of different text-to-speech systems. On the Mac, for example, if you open the terminal, you'll find you've got a command called say. The pen's quite thin, let me make it a bit thicker, called say. And you can say some text and save things as an audio file. So the way that text-to-speech systems normally work is you have a piece of text and that gets fed into some kind of standard voice system. It'll normally have a few different voices that you can choose from. And then it'll generate something like an audio file, or it might actually just read the text out loud. Now let's have a quick look. There we can see, now I've created this, not using a standard text-to-speech one, but I've used an AI system using Qwen 3-TTS to generate a file called mactestoutput.wav, which has now appeared in this directory. So let's have a look. Remember, what it should be saying is that this is an audio test on Mac Silicon.
This is a test of voice cloning on Mac with Apple Silicon.
Well, it sounds a bit like me, doesn't it? Now, it did take it a few seconds to go through and generate that file. And obviously, if you had an entire book, like I've got a text file here that's got an entire book, this I think is A Tale of Two Cities, it would take a very long time to create it. And so if you want to actually work more efficiently and hear the thing while it's going through, you can write a program like this. Now again, I'll make sure that this code is actually available on GitHub. This is a slightly longer program, and the way that it's working, actually I'll show how to run it first of all. So this is a slightly more complex program to run because it takes several parameters. So I'm going to give it the name of that voice sample that I created initially. I'll also pass in the text that I say during that voice sample, and then finally I give it the text file it's going to read out. Now, it'll go through, and the way that this works, in fact, let me tell you how this thing's actually working behind the scenes. The way that these things work is that you start off with your sample, your voice sample, and it goes through a piece of software called a transformer. Now, if you've been in any of my courses, you'll know all about transformers. They can basically like squeeze text or different media files and extract the meaning of them. And what's going to happen in this case is that this entire audio file is going to be squished into a vector of numbers. Now that can be applied to an AI system, and that AI system can generate a custom voice. Now it'll take it a little while to go through, but this particular file, because it will go through and read an entire book, it's going to chop it up into sentences, and as it converts those sentences to audio files, they'll appear here, and after it's created each sentence, it'll save the audio file in that audio output directory.
Best of times.
And then start to read it.
It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity.
Now, because this is actually doing it a sentence at a time, you can hear me reading the book as it goes along.
It was the winter of despair.
And it should finish the first sentence, and then it starts the next one.
We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. There were a king with a large jaw,
and so on. So I hope that's been helpful. That's it. I'll make sure I put links to the 2 pieces of code in the comments. Thanks.